Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Dojo Live. Today is Wednesday, December 8th, 2021. I'm Tulio Siragusa, broadcasting from Southern California, and joining me today are Carlos Ponce in Cuernavaca, Mexico, and Kim Lantis in Hermosillo, Mexico. And our guest, Angela Castillo, who's the co-founder and COO at HelloGuru, is joining us from Boston, Massachusetts. Hi, guys. Welcome to the show.
Hey,
Good to be
Julio.
here. Good to be here. As ever,
Not to be
Julio.
confused with any other Bostons.
Of course.
Yeah, well,
Of course.
I think there's Boston somewhere else. I'm not sure. So in any case, today we're talking about supercharging product managers. But before we go into that topic and dig in and see what we can learn and unpack, let's get to know our guest a little bit and her company. Angela, if you could be so kind to introduce yourself to the audience, tell us a little bit about you. Thank you for joining us today again.
First of all, thank you guys for inviting me. I love to exchange ideas with people that are passionate about technology and business, and so thank you so much. A little bit about myself. I have Spanish, half Colombian, and started my career in Europe. But my passion is definitely startups, businesses, and technology. And so after my MBA in Babson here in Boston, I went to Silicon Valley. I worked for Anheuser-Busch in Mountain View. I was the chief of staff of Drift, and now I have my own company in which I'm trying to empower everybody to use technology.
Great. Thanks for being with us. So tell us a little bit about HelloGuru. What gave birth to this idea? What was the thing that was like, we should create HelloGuru? And tell us what you guys do today, please.
So at HelloGuru, we unlock human potential. So what we want is for technology to be a catalyst for people to focus in what they do best, which is creating human relationships and doing creative work, and allowing machines to do their job, which is data entry, data analytics, and all the repetitive work. So we are a no-code tool for product managers to be able to aggregate, visualize data, create automations, so that the developers can focus in technologies that are going to change the world, and people that do not know how to code, like me, can still create software and create things out of technology.
I might become a customer after this show. Let's see what we can learn. Kim, please, let's kick it off. Thank you so much.
Go ahead, Carlos.
Apparently
Carlos.
Tulio doesn't pay too much
ahead,
attention
Carlos.
to the chat, so
I didn't see the chat. Go ahead, guys.
You never do. All right, so yeah, the topic is as chosen by our guest today. It's free the developers using NoCode. So we're going to be discussing how to supercharge the way product managers work with product data. Okay, Angela, the first question I have for you is, why did you choose this particular topic, and why did you feel it was relevant for today's day and age? Thank you.
Well, I think that it's one of the most relevant topics in the workforce right now, because what we're seeing is a shift from the traditional companies to tech-driven companies, because that makes companies more efficient, and that makes, let's say, an impact in business. And freeing developers means that developers today are very expensive, right? So if you're gonna have a developer in your team, or 10 or 20 or 1,000, depending on the size of your business, you're gonna want to make sure that they're focusing the right thing. And copy pasting code from one side of another or doing repetitive tasks is not the right thing. So what no code, the technology, allows you to do is to take something really complex that today is done in code, and something that perhaps a developer is bored to do again and again, and put it in no code so that anybody can do it with building blocks. So I think that this is very relevant, because it impacts every single business today, because there's, first of all, there's more tech companies. So What we see is more product managers and more tech teams, but also regular companies that are not tech companies are putting more technology into their businesses, and that involves more engineers, more product managers, and more tech teams. So it involves everyone today.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So,
Go ahead, guys.
Angela, many questions, but I'm just curious in terms of the use case, where this is more applicable. I could see a lot of value in the ideation phases of the product lifecycle where a product manager or business unit leader is playing around to try to visualize or come up with something that could be then coded into production. Is that where most of these use is, or is it being used in other areas like to test and validate with clients? Can you walk us through some possible scenarios to paint the picture for us of how this is being used today?
Yeah, so there's two important things to mention here. What NoCode is really good with is taking something that is complicated and making it simple, and something that is very utilized. So as we were thinking, we knew that we wanted to do something with no code because we believe it's the future. So as we were thinking about use cases, we selected something that is very complicated and it's repeated every day, which is product managers seeing how people use their product. So when you launch a feature, you decide, okay, what is the success or the failure of this feature? Is it in weekly active users? Is it in clicks? Is it in sales? Once you define that, you need to go and create a sort of dashboard that will give you that information. And after that, you can iterate on the product, create another feature that is similar, or simply delete it because it's not working. And so today, the way people are doing this is utilizing code. So they're coding the data out of their product data in SQL language. So if you're a product manager and you don't know how to code, this is very complicated. So you end up having to take your product decisions blind. With us, you basically just can drag and drop your SQL queries, and you're able to see all your product data, take your product decisions, see what features are working, what features are not working, what to build next. It's really, really simple.
Interesting. So, product
Angela,
validating features and functionalities to look for adoption rate or where there's gaps, and then as they do that, how do they then connect that understanding into making fixes? For example, is there some tools that make recommendations based on usability of certain features or not? How does it help those product managers then take that info and make decisions?
I mean, you're spot on in how the future looks like. So the ideal case would be that the data give you suggestions as to continue building this feature with 30% of your resources. That's in an ideal scenario. But the truth of the maturity of this business case is that we're very, very early. We're in a situation where we hear some startups and even companies that say that they take product decisions based on only qualitative data. So you are relying on maybe 5 or 2% of your customers, which are like the higher paying or the most engaged, to do your product decisions, and you don't have data to actually see what is happening with your product. There's something really important that all product managers are very familiar, and is that what people say and what people do is very different. Somebody might tell you that they're willing to pay for a feature. Somebody might tell you that they want it and that they are going to use it, and then you launch it and they don't use it at all. So seeing the actual numbers is the only validation that you have to see how the behavior of the users is and is not what they say, is really how they use the product.
Angela, I can see that it's very easy for a lot of our engineers here at Ancora getting excited about all the complexity of what you're doing with HelloGuru and the technical side, which is exciting, right? But how about the business side? Can you give us just an idea for the viewers out there who might be watching and want to know about this? Who are your clients? What type of niches or spaces or verticals are you serving?
So at the moment, where we find that we make the most impact is in Series A, B, C companies that are at that stage where they know that they have something people want, and they're starting to organize the databases and create processes around their product organizations. And they already have some customers, and they're right now the objective is not number of customers, but it's retention. How do I make sure that I have a positive impact, and how do I make sure that my customers love me and I am delivering each day more value with my software product? I forgot to say we're focusing on software companies because they're the ones that need us the
Mhm.
most.
You
And
mean
so,
software SaaS companies?
yes,
Okay, great.
yes.
Thank you.
And with high volume, so the more volume you have, the more data you need to manage. And so the companies that really love us and get a lot of value are companies that have lots and lots of data. And we don't focus on a specific vertical because at the end of the day, what we have identified is that product teams have adopted a very standard way of operating. You always have the squads. They all use jobs to be done. They all use Scrum, and so we find a pretty homogeneous sample when it comes down to the implementation.
Awesome. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Angela. Kim, please. I know you
Yeah,
got a
so
question, so go ahead.
I'm wondering from what you've seen happening with HelloGuru, the companies and clients that you have that are using it, if you've discovered some type of sweet spot, how often should companies be kind of performing this review, this analytics, right? Is it something that you find that instantaneous every day, all the time? Would it be something sort of like an agile cycle every 2 weeks or something? Like, how often do you find, is there too much or too little? What's the sweet spot of this type of validation?
That's a great question, Kim. And this was a question that we were asking ourselves 6 months ago because we were deciding business intelligence team and data analysts focus on creating standard dashboards. So for instance, if you have a business and you're a Series A, you know how many sales you need to get in by the end of the year. And so you set up that query using SQL, and there you have your dashboard, and you can check it week over week, month over month, and that is fine. But of course, that's not good for us because what we sell is the democratization of software development. So we need people that are using data every single day for different things. And that's why we're focusing on product managers. The world is becoming more agile. The developing and not developing no code and code are combining, so you're able to develop things faster. And so product managers need to check data every day because they launch features every week. They do changes every day. So the cadence of how often are you going to be able to dig your data and make decisions, it depends very much on the business, but it's going faster and faster.
All right. And
So just to
HelloGuru is
paint the
there to help you
picture,
pick up the pace.
yeah, just to paint the picture a little further today, the way it's done today, product managers are very reliant on the engineering to go and do this cut and pasting to show the usability on the feature. So it's very dependent on the people that actually rather build a product than to actually work on reports and analytics, right? So what's the impact? I see the value for a product manager to be able to see it, visualize, and actually start to get more insights into the adaptability across the product. But is the value also for the engineers in terms of the time that they're spending and their availability to do this kind of thing? So your customer, is it the product team and also the VP of engineering? Because I see the impact on both. How is this being received by the companies that are adopting this today?
And the data analysts. So the way it's happening today is that the product manager needs to see some information, and then either depending on how busy the data team is, they go to the data team and ask for a dashboard or a query. And if not, they need to put it in the sprint of the week for the engineers that are in that specific squad. So you're doing a very hard trade-off, which is you're trading a dashboard that you need to see your information for time that they could be spending building the next feature. What is more important? Well, the next feature is actually gonna be what would impact your customer. So if you're user-centric enough, you understand that feature is number one because that's what customers want. But on the other hand, you cannot take decisions as a product manager if you don't see data. So they find themselves in this situation all the time. Or for instance, they have a bug and they need to fix it, or the system failed and they need right now to understand how many customers were impacted to send a message or to take whatever actions are required. So it's well received by everyone because the business intelligence team does not receive as many requests for dashboards. And then the engineers do not receive requests for doing queries. Which, by the way, doing a query for an engineer is very boring. They have done it 20 times. And so they're very enthusiastic about the fact that the product manager can see the data on his or her own.
Great.
Cool. Talking about how your development teams and all this, how HelloGuru is pulling this all together, we actually have a live question from one of our engineers at Ancora. His name is Margaro Sanchez, and he is asking if you think, or what is perhaps a better way to define an MVP, and maybe how HelloGuru works around that.
I think that an MVP comes out of an assumption. So what you want is to test a hypothesis. So what is the minimum thing that you can build in order to test that hypothesis is what an MVP should be. And these days, people call everything an MVP. And everybody, because the things out there are very advanced and they look really nice and there's a lot of nice technology. So people call it MVP and they make all sorts of features that look and feel really nice. But for me, what is important is to test hypotheses in an MVP phase so that you make sure that you build just what's right and not too much.
Cool. Do you have a formula that you would utilize or how you would guide maybe other PMs on how to come to hypothesis? What's the process that you use to reach a good hypothesis?
I think it comes from the data. I think that, for instance, you see that there's a lot of product usage in one feature and clicks, say, and not in another feature. And so your hypothesis is they're not using the feature in their mobile phone because they only use their mobile phone, let's say, for personal matters, and they use the laptop for business matters. And so that's your hypothesis, and then you need to go and test it and see what experiment or what feature can you launch so that you can make your users use their mobile for work as well. If what you're selling is B2B software, I'm just making an example, but that would be an example.
So besides the product companies, are there, for example, design companies that work on UX, UI, who do feasibility studies, who analyze the adoptability of a product, who help product companies figure out why something's not being adopted as well as it could be, what feature sets or functionality need to be improved? Are some of those companies also adopting this kind of technology to get faster and smarter about identifying potential problems and potential opportunities for improvements?
That's
what's your thoughts there?
A great idea. I think that, for instance,
we come up with all kinds of great ideas on this show. We're always feeding ideas to our guests. Do we just open a whole new market opportunity for you guys with just that question?
You just did. I'm calling my demand gen team right now. I mean,
Love it.
Outbound for this. I can tell you about consultants, for instance, not for UX UI or for product usage, but consultants in general need to enter a company and they need to analyze their data, because showing data is the way that they have to persuade the company to take the actions of the recommendation that they make at the end of the project. And the data is also the way in which they assess the company and make it more efficient or whatever is the task at hand. And I get approached by consultants saying that in order to access the databases of the customers, they need to write SQLs. Well, these are MBAs that that are not proficient in SQL. And so it delays, they have a dependency. They need to hire somebody or have somebody from their company, the company that they are consulting, doing the data analytics for them, or at least creating the dashboards. And that's just limiting. Every dependency that you have on your day to day, especially if it's dependency to get information, which information is the core of decision making, it's not good.
Yeah. Carlos?
And
mute
he
yourself.
did it again.
Yes, I did. I mean,
Did it
there's no way I can
again.
do without speaking while I'm on mute. Okay, Angela, going back to the no code element of today's conversation, what I'm about to ask you comes from the layman's perspective, because I'm the from the three of us here, the four of us here, I'm the least knowledgeable of, like, at a deeper level in technology. I'm more of a layman here, more of an enthusiast than anything else. So in that regard, what would you say? What would you say that, let me just quote myself here. What makes a great software developer? One that writes good code, one that writes no code, or one who deletes code?
I
One
don't
with clean
know if
code.
I have the right answer for that. I think that it depends on what the objective is. So just because we were speaking about an MVP before, if you're doing an MVP, the best software developer is the one that does no code, because you don't need anything really fancy to prove an assumption. But if you are building the next rocket ship that goes to Mars, the best developer probably would be the one that writes full-on quality code. So it really depends on the task at hand and what type of environment and results.
So
What I see,
is it
I can say something I learned through this journey in the no-code world, and is that what we see more and more is companies combining code and no-code. And accelerating, for example, there's tools like Retool or Webflow, in which you can pretty much do all the standard things in no code, and then you can add some JavaScript. So that's an option too. I don't think that no code means that code will not exist. I think that is just helps you accelerate.
okay?
Kind of going
Thank you.
back to what you were talking about at the beginning. I'm sorry. I think there's a little delay. About freeing up the developers to essentially do what it is that they do best, and allowing the project manager to be more independent. Aside from, let's say, the more efficient route that your no-code code mashup allows, are you also seeing benefits? Like, how is this affecting team dynamics, the effectiveness of communication, minimizing tension or friction? Is that happening?
I think so, because when you add a no-code tool in the team, and I'm going to speak now about my team. For instance, we have our website in Webflow. And so the marketing team can go ahead and just change the text or a picture themselves. And I think that this is happening more and more. For instance, integrations. Anybody in my team right now, the HR team, the finance team, create their own integrations where, for instance, every time a customer pays, we get a notification in the Slack channel. Well, they created that integration themselves. Every time we have a customer call, all the information goes to Airtable. Well, they did that integration themselves. So I think it's democratization of some of the tasks that in the past only software developers could do. Now we can all share and help. That empowers everyone and makes stronger teams faster, more dynamic, and more empowered to do things that are a little bit innovative too.
Very
So we're almost at the end of the segment. Before we shift to the culture a little bit of the company itself, I'm curious. Fast forward a little bit. When we think about where we've come from with many technologies that were very manual intensive, that require coding, that are now basically drag and drop capabilities, right? Think of like a managed WordPress site. Now you've got themes like Divi and others where you literally can create a website if you're not a coder. You don't have to know HTML. PHP, you have to do any of that stuff. It's literally drag and drop. Everything codes itself. So is that ultimately where we're going with this, where you could essentially create an environment where applications can be built and created similarly in a drag and drop fashion without any code, or at least without the need for engineers to go in and code the product? Is that fast forward 10 years where we're the world, what it's going to look like in the product
It's
engineering
happening.
world?
It's happening right now. We have, for instance, plenty of no-code tools that allow you to create applications, and even we have no-code tools for artificial intelligence. So we are already seeing it. It would take a while. So when you take an abstract concept of coding or a logic, a backend logic, anything like that, and you convert it into a building block that somebody can drag and drop, you're taking something really complicated and you're making it simple, but it's not as flexible. So for instance, Webflow has templates and it has options, but it's not infinite in its options. It has, I mean, they're becoming, but they're really advanced and they're doing a great job, and Zapier is doing a great job, and everybody is just making it more and more flexible, but it's not infinite. And at the end of the day, they're features, they're not code. So the limitation of code is to flexibility of the building blocks. What happens that as no-code tools are launched in the market and we have more and more, they're giving more options. So they're becoming very specialized. So this no-code tool is for mobile applications that are for this industry, and so they have more options for that. And this other no-code tool is for integrations that have more real-time data. Well, that's just for that. So probably in the future, we're going to have many, many more. And we're going to have more options, and it's almost going to be, code is going to be needed less and less, but it's still going to be needed, because if you need flexibility, no code is not going to give you that flexibility. It's always going to be something that is pre-made with specifications.
Mm-hmm. So you heard it here, folks. If entrepreneurs out there, start thinking of ways that you can make your niche market for a no-code application device software.
We'll see how AI plays a role in that. But we're up on time, guys. You guys want to jump in? And who wants to take the culture question?
Carlos,
I can do it.
Go for it.
Yeah, I can do it. Okay, Angela, here's a question for you. Say that I'm a developer, an engineer, or a UX designer, whatever. What would you say that, why should I come work for HelloGuru? What makes HelloGuru a great company to work for that a lot of people might want to flock to the hiring manager and just, come work for you, basically? What makes HelloGuru a great company that a lot of people might want to come work for?
Here is what I tell my recruits. So 2 things. We're building an amazing culture, flat organization, and fun environment full of tech and hacks, and a very close team, even though we're remote. And also something that appeals software development very much, software developers very much, is that when you write code and you use it, it lives in the product, but if the product changes, your legacy is gone, because you wrote that code and now it's not there anymore. But if you write code to create a no-code tool, that building block is going to be used for every single person that uses that no-code tool. So you have a huge legacy of a product, and you're basically scaling yourself in terms of the impact that you make. So that's what I tell them.
So what's the best way to sell an artist and a creator? To sell them on the idea of immortalizing them. I like it. Well, Angela, that's basically what I heard. Is you're a creator, you can get immortalized because your code gets put into a something that lasts forever. So tell us a little bit about, we're up on time, but just tell us a little bit about what's the journey been like for you personally, building this company where you are now.
It's dynamic. I would call it very dynamic, because every day you do something different, because the company changes and evolves so fast that there is no 2 months that are the same. It's always a different challenge. So the upside is that you get a very steep learning curve because you get confronted to many situations of all sorts. And I think that everybody says that it's hard. Yes, it's time consuming, but it's definitely very rewarding to be an entrepreneur, and especially to build a business that we think that is something like nobody has created before. Is exciting, right? You're not copying something, you're creating something that is going to add value to many people in a different way.
Well, congratulations. It's been great to have you as our guest today, and we have to stay in touch and see how things progress. NoCode, the future of more flexibility and faster and quicker validation of features and functionalities for product teams, less dependency on analysts and so on. So great to have you with us. Just stay with us as we go off the air in a minute. We will have a rebroadcast tomorrow and Friday. And then what do we got coming up next week, Carlos?
Wait a minute, Julio. Wait a minute. It's not a rebroadcast, just so you know. No, wait a minute. Do we have a rebroadcast?
Yeah, we do. We have a whole hand.
I'm sorry.
Tomorrow's all hands.
That's right. I got confused. No, I was looking at the December 14th one, so I got confused. My bad. So, yeah. Tomorrow
So what do we got coming up next week?
I'm sorry, you broke up. What was that again? Oh, next week. Sorry, we're gonna be speaking with Innovation Ecosystems on next week, which is going to be on Tuesday. Innovation Ecosystems, and the topic is going to be. Let's see what the topic is going to be. The topic is going to be bigger opportunities are waiting for you, and this will be with Jennifer Wild and Dan McClure, the managing directors at the company Innovation Ecosystem. And we don't have any confirmation for the following day, but as soon as we get it, it'll be on the website. So folks, keep an eye on the website. Don't miss it. These will be great interviews, just like every Dojo Live interview that we conduct, 12 p.m. Pacific, right here on Dojo Live next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Thank you.
Be safe, everyone.
Be safe.
Thank you.